In the original Jurassic Park film, the reveal of the dinosaurs was an uplifting moment of timeless cinematic magic. The real deal, awe and spectacle on the big screen. Now, in an age of reboots, rehashes, franchise fatigue, we have a Jurassic World film that opens in a world where dinosaurs are an overrated and tedious part of everyday life. And a groaning, miserable, dying dinosaur is holding up traffic because it collapsed by a freeway, causing pissed-off commuters to honk their horns and scowl and look at their watches because the piece of shit, stupid prehistoric creature has screwed up their appointment schedule.
I'm disappointed in your species.
This is the level of banality and cultural emptiness, both in the world on the screen and in our own world, that things have gotten to. Watching Jurassic World Rebirth, you don't even feel like you're watching a film so much as bracing for incoming salvos of loud, exhausting sequences. It's boring and mid-volume half the time, with some shoddy, tepid character work that never quite coalesces into anything meaningful or sustained, followed by retina-scalding, patience-wearing, psychosis-inducing, seizure-inciting, soul-stripping, sense-disorientating, eardrum perforating, nerve-eviscerating, heart-palpitating, teeth-loosening, spirit-sapping, faith-abandoning, religion-renouncing, testicles-shriveling, mouth-drying, tear-welling, hair-raising, skin-shivering, libido-ebbing, sphincter-loosening, ass-numbing, mind-warping, spine-crippling, toe-curling, skin-peeling, semen-sterilizing, and brain-damaging action scenes that leave you exhausted and demoralized and glumly teary-eyed, like Rachel Reeves during PMQs. It is pure, soulless, corporatized slop entertainment. Even by the ghoulish, spiritless standards of this strip-mined franchise, the ideas and lessons and themes of the original completely divested and replaced with tropes and set pieces you could write yourself. A series of beats to be hit, rather than drama to be expressed. Rather than the dinosaurs on screen being the consequence of men's hubris and folly, they just come across as just big, stupid, angry creatures, and nothing really matters. Rebirth opens in a containment installation for mutant horrible dinosaurs, with probably the lamest inciting incident in cinema history. A lab scientist is munching on a Snickers bar, which wafts about in a product placement sleazily way, and then flitters into a duct, shorts out the systems, and shuts down the security apparatus, unaccountably releasing the creatures, which you'd think is the opposite of what a containment facility would do. Scarlett Johansson, playing a mercenary, is contracted by a venal corporate type. The job is a covert expedition to one of the last habitable pockets of prehistoric biodiversity on Earth, a quarantined island nestled somewhere near the equator, where the atmosphere is apparently still conducive to sustaining dinosaurs. The Big Pharma guy's plan is to extract genetic material from 3 apex dinosaurs, land, sea, and air varieties, because their DNA might contain miraculous compounds that could be used in groundbreaking and lucrative cardiovascular treatments. To gather the DNA from the non-obliging dinosaurs, they use an extractor gun that sucks up a sample and then disengages with a pop and floats away on a little parachute. The team hits the ocean first, because every Jurassic film requires one scene where a marine dinosaur lunges out of the water. Just as they're about to collect the sea monster's DNA, they intercept a distress signal from a stranded, narratively useful, demographically diverse family of retards, comprising a father, his eldest teen daughter, younger daughter, and the eldest daughter's boyfriend, a loathsomely fragile, lazy, indifferent, and disrespectful lad. No self-respecting father on Earth would consent to a scenario where his last sentimental boat ride with his kin would also include the loashly and annoyingly horny and lazy boyfriend of his teenage daughter and the very small, cramped confines of a sailboat.
Alan.
The extraction team is attacked by more aquatic dinosaurs, so the team hurtles through a succession of dangerously rocky coves at top speed, with the boat ultimately being flung up onto a beach as an unserviceable smoking wreck. At this point, the groups conveniently fragment. Scarlett Johansson, Henry, a former mercenary associate of hers, and captain of the boat, the scientist, the corporate sleazy Burke from Aliens type, and several forgettable extras whose deaths convey nothing, verge off looking for the other two species of dinosaurs, and the panicked family drift about, vaguely following pipes in the direction of a jetty or organized infrastructure.
Oh, I've been internalizing a really complicated situation in my head.
Clearly established A and B storylines tend to be suited more to episodic television than to a feature film like this, and while there was a similar divergence in the original Jurassic Park film, to which this seems to be paying homage, the two groups there at least had some relation beforehand, whereas here, the two groups have practically nothing to do with each other. Their initial meeting is contrived, quick and stilted, they establish no connection, and their divergent storylines have the scantest bit of narrative connective tissue. When one of the girls accuses the shady businessman of not saving her from falling off the side of the boat when he had the chance, which she grumbles about periodically while her and her dumbass family trek through the wilderness. It leaves you dissociated from the film as a whole because you often feel like you're watching two films spliced crudely together. Just as you might be settling into one narrative arc, you get an abrupt hand clasping the back of your head and twitching you back to watch the other, which inevitably leads, despite a bloated runtime, to an insufficient amount of character development or time for any of the relationships to breathe. There are also so many characters that it feels like the writers find some pragmatic relief in dispensing with the minor ones, as it disentangles and cuts away some of the dead weight dragging at their overstuffed script. Scarlett Johansson's character is undefined and half-baked. They can't decide on a character arc for her. Sometimes she has a painted, stilted smile, and she is occasionally modest and charming, but this is incongruous to the tough mercenary she is established as. Sometimes she seems to flirt with the scientist, other times she is staunchly bolshy and assertive, then later she is somber and pliant in her intimate discussions with old familiar face Henry, played by Mahershala Ali, in an expedition dump where she reveals her personal failings. Then she locks into action film mode. It's as if the director never gave her any proper contours for the role, so she just defaults to her own personality some of the time, which might be the biggest indictment to the film. The fact that it is so bereft of cinematic effort or depth, it seems to falter below the lowest bar of what a character performance is.
Alan!
Loomis, the scientist, also has a lost character arc. He supposedly has significant understanding of the dinosaurs, their habitats and behavior, and yet at no stage does he have agency, asserting himself or directing the crew away from prospective danger by pointing out traits or patterns of movement or alterations in habitat, or overruling the approach of the others by explaining how they might be placing themselves in danger, or how a dinosaur might respond in a certain threatening way, and then proposing alternatives that might cast him in a respectable, decent light as a character. He also falters and underachieves as the moral heart of the story, not just as the simple believer in making their new treatments open source and therefore cheaply or freely available, but in conveying heart, integrity, composed moral decency. He's too skittish, too diffident, too high-strung. Again, think of Dr. Grant from the original. His appeal was his measured, just fucking grown-upness. He could be unhurried, dispassionate, and the charm was in him having to be cajoled into joining in. He didn't suffer fools gladly, and other people scarcely impressed him. This character development then had one of the greatest payoffs in cinema history. His taking off his sunglasses in trembling disbelief, pure unself-conscious wonder and joy at the sight of the dinosaurs. By contrast, scientist guy in Jurassic World Rebirth is just paper-thin, dull as dishwater, hardly masculine, modern character guy man, almost nothing at all. By the end of the movie, in the now obligatory third act, you shuffle back up in your seat, flatulent, headachy, passive and miserable, at the reintroduction of the monster dinosaur briefly teased in the first 5 minutes. Back in the long ago, when you had first nestled into your seat with provisional goodwill, and before you wanted to summarily execute every individual even tangentially related to the production of this cinematic turd.
He's out of line, but he's right.
The monster dinosaur is just a mash of orc, Ripley's weird alien child in Alien Resurrection, and Bella Ramsey on A Good Day, stalking terrifyingly through a gloomy, dilapidated landscape of product placement. Mahershala Ali seems to sacrifice himself for the others, only to cheaply and banally reappear perfectly fine and unscathed. A feint not even the most plump, dull-witted, generic cinema-goer would have bought for a second. Whereas in a decent script, you could have a character who has done irredeemable things and yet reconciled to themselves and others, and ultimately sacrifice themselves for the greater good in a redemption arc that allows the others to survive. Here, we just have a character we more or less like on balance, more so because of the charm of the actor than their character, who seems to die and then is flung back into the narrative without stirring more than a flicker of emotion in anyone. And this is, I think, the thing for me. I have a belief now that modern audiences don't really want to experience strong emotion in these things. Not only is it just a matter of people wanting to switch their brains off for a couple of hours, I also think a modern, and especially younger audience, also wants to dull their emotional receptivity and engagement for a while. Such disengagement, apparently, is comforting or relaxing or unchallenging, which would seem to touch on more disturbing modern trends. Corporate Guy actually comports himself reasonably well, hauling ropes to bring people up or down a cliff, and the idea of him being a nefarious, cutthroat traitor doesn't really stack up when everyone else in the team knows what the score is, and is bought into the mercenary, money-making underpinning of the mission. This film is a copy of a copy of a copy. Cinema at its emptiest. Cinema at its sloppiest. To put it more simply,
that is one big pile of shit.